All right, I guess we can go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to another edition of Enterpret Product Roundtable. Very excited to talk about an extremely important time in these times, which is connecting customer feedback to revenue impact to drive product investments. So and no one else better to talk about this than the one and only Abishek Viswanathan. Abhishek is the Chief Product Officer of Apollo.io, and I'm really excited to discuss with him the program they've built to actually solve this problem of actually connecting customer feedback to revenue impact. Sheikh, welcome. Thank you so much for your time. Very excited. Could you give a quick introduction about yourself and maybe about Apollo.io as well to those who may not be familiar?
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. I wish I could measure up to what's on the slide right now, but I'm the Chief Product Officer at Apollo. Apollo is in the sales intelligence space, and you can think of us as helping go-to-market teams get access to their total available market, reach the most in-market buyers, engage with potential buyers, and then win and close deals at a scale that they've never done before. And we provide data as well as insights as well as workflows that can help teams scale revenue significantly using the least amount of resources that they have. I support product design, research, and analytics at Apollo, and Apollo is primarily a product-led growth platform. So any user that wants to try Apollo can sign up for a free trial. Pretty much all of the magic of the platform is there in the free trial. And once you get hooked on, you can then use more of the advanced features and the workflows in all of our paid plans. And traditionally, our business has grown because of this rootedness or grassrootedness inside product-led growth. Because in product-led growth, you cannot hide value. You have to prove value to the customer every inch of the way. And so that's a little bit about Apollo. I'll hand it back to Varun.
Yeah, of course. That's great. We're excited to dive in. Thank you so much. A little introduction about us as well. I don't want to steal too much of the show here. I'm Varun. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Enterpret. An introduction about Enterpret. We are a customer feedback intelligence platform. So we unify all customer interactions between your business, between your customers and a business across all channels and all modalities into one place. And then we build adaptive AI models, which are tailored to your feedback architecture to help drive decision making, such as the one that we were discussing with Sheikh at Apollo as well. If you want to know more about us, you can go to enterpret.com and reach out to us if you would like to learn more. Awesome. So Sheikh, diving in, I think you mentioned a little bit about the scale of Apollo and the product-led growth motion and why customer feedback philosophically really matters. Could you just help set the stage of the company is growing rapidly, business is scaling well, multiple products suites within Apollo as well. What was the trigger to up-level learning from customer feedback and just hey, why was it still important to have some sort of quantification and hey, the way we're doing VOC is not good enough, VOC as in voice of customer, and we still have to challenge ourselves to up level as we think about even the next phase of growth?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the things that I did when I joined the company was to look at what is fueling our core growth. And what was fueling our core growth was product-led growth motion, which is you sign up for a free trial, and we have hundreds and thousands and millions of users who go through the free trial motion. And in a free trial motion, you have literally minutes to wow the customer through design, through value. And then once they sign up and they pay money, then you have to provide value every single day for them to renew. And conversion is important, renewal is important. And both of these lead to what we call gross dollar retention. And as customers get more value out of the product, they will invite more customers within their own organization. That leads to expansions, and that leads to net NDR, which is net dollar retention. Now, let's peel the onion back a bit. You have hundreds and thousands of users signing up every day. And as you look at the funnel, there is sign up to trial to, we call it setup, aha, and habit. And as users are going through that funnel, we have the world's best analytics. We have the funnel, we know where people are dropping off. But we only know where people are dropping off.
Right.
We have to move from where people are dropping off to understanding the core reasons why. and those turn into hypotheses, and those are some of the areas that we go and reduce friction. So reducing friction is such a core part of a self-service product, because if you do that, ultimately it impacts NDR. Now let's take like a product manager, and let's think about the spectrum of how you create the hypothesis. So really awesome product managers are right a lot. They have the right instincts. They can look at the funnel, and they can just look at the own experience in the product and speak to maybe 3-4 customers and gain really good insight into what could be going wrong, and they can go and fix it. That's a great point, but not everybody is like that advanced. You need to be in the space for 15 years, 20 years in order to get that instinct. So product managers typically tend to gravitate towards two ends of the spectrum. One, you look at just the funnel analytics and try and deduce what's going on. The other end of the spectrum is to try and talk to every single customer and understand what is happening at scale. Is it possible to talk to 100,000 customers? It's literally impossible to talk to 100,000 customers. So what you end up doing is you start looking at several data sources. You look at an in-product survey through Sprig, or you use Qualtrics for a renewal survey. So you start reading through survey responses. You talk to the contact center and ask them, hey, in your recent intercom chats, what have you learned? And very soon, they have one support person being like the wisdom of the crowd saying, hey, I have these 5 things, and they're really critical. And so the PM can sort of try and deduce what the top themes are. But even there, it's not tied back to the revenue potential. The support person is not going to tell you, hey, is this something that could have been that's happening at scale for hundreds of customers who have like a low ARR, or is this happening to 10 large customers who definitely will churn because this is a significant issue? So the PM has to then take this data. They have to take the revenue data from another system. They have to use their own insights to think through, I have seen this 5 times. It's happened 5 times often. So this looks like a theme. Some PMs will get it. A lot of PMs may not get it because it's just hard to stitch together these different pieces of data. The survey data, there's intercom chats, there's revenue data that's sitting in Salesforce. And then you have to combine all of this and assimilate to build those 6 or 7 big themes that are truly the real factors that cause churn. And so getting to that level where you have like the solid hypothesis of people are dropping in the funnel, you understand the 5 themes that are directly connected to revenue and the revenue impact, and then being able to then act on the ones that have the highest impact. It has become an art, and we wanted to make it a science. And that's why we created this program called the root cause elimination. And we started making it more scientific and having a way to actually measure it. Combine all the data sources, having a way to put the themes together, having a way to prioritize by revenue, and then having a way to measure the outcome, which is you go fix some of these issues. What is the actual outcome you end up driving? How do you know that these fixes are actually reducing friction? And so that's the process that we followed. And we set up this program in the second quarter of this year. And over 2 quarters, we have made significant improvements. I hope that answered your question.
It does. And I love the 2 extremes you mentioned that, hey, I mean, if you have no time at all, you can just look at your revenue data, and you can look at your product analytics data and get a very deep understanding of what exactly is happening for each cohort of customer. And if you had infinite time, obviously you could talk to every single customer, but at the scale of like Apollo.io, it's like, it's literally impossible. So you have to figure a middle way out of like joining the quantitative metrics of like analytics, usage, number of seats maybe, and revenue data with the feedback data at scale, and do it in a way that's like centralized and creates it is still scientific, but is in a way that drives the most efficient impact, if I could say. And that's a great way to think about it. And I think you also covered a very important point of why it matters to really unify data. I think diving in like into more of the specifics, like let's would be great to share with the team, with all the folks on the webinar, how exactly was this program set up? So we have this data set, which is like all feedback is unified across all sources, whether it's like user interviews, cancellation surveys, CSAT surveys, support tickets, intercom, all is unified and it's mapped by joined on a column with like revenue data, and you have this like data set, and then it's analyzed and presented to you. But then I think what's really special about the program at Apollo is like, it's not just the insights, it's like the action basically that you're able to drive from that. And the way you've thought about like finding needles in haystack essentially at that level of scale. Could you talk about like how this, like as a chief product officer, how are you consuming this data, and like how does it drive decision making for what investments to make in your product roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. So think about the question that we want to answer, which is what are the top reasons why customers that are driving a significant amount of revenue are churning or hitting a significant amount of friction in using the product. And for us, self-serviceability is extremely critical. So let's say that we want to answer the question, and then we find the main outcome that we want to drive. Let's say we go fix it. How do you actually measure that the outcome is useful? So that's why we set this program up, and it's called root cause elimination. So our philosophy is that anybody that contacts the contact center, support chat, support conversations, the intent of that should be organic to the business. These are really experts of the product. They're experts in how to get most value out of the product. And we want to make sure that we use these experts in helping customers add more seats or unlock a new feature or help them set up on a new feature that will help them expand to even more seats. So that's what we call associate or organic, like issues that are truly organic to the business. So what we did is we took all of the interactions coming into the support conversations, support chat, so intercom, for instance, and we bucketed them into 3 groups. Root cause, which is usability issues. The second is bugs. And the third is associate, truly organic to the business, where you need an expert associate to go there. And what we did was we looked at the distribution across all these 3 classes of issues. And we know that the first 2 classes of issues are inorganic to the business. Nobody should be contacting you to learn how to use the product. That's a usability issue. And we can automate a lot of that. Nobody should be contacting support because there is a bug. We should have instrumentation, events, and metrics that automatically goes and finds the bugs, and we should be able to fix it. So these are categories of issues that are inorganic to the business. You're wasting an associate's time. That's one lens to think about it. You're not just wasting an associate's time, you're also really frustrating the customer. These are points where they actually don't want to contact support. They want to use the product, and something is coming in the way. And what we looked at was, we looked at the distribution of these issues that are hitting our contact center, and we found that the distribution is 40% where we had to go fix the root cause. It's like a bug. 40% was some sort of usability issue or education where we could automate very easily. And then 20% was actually organic to the business, where they wanted to increase a seat or they want to go on a higher pricing plan, which are all great. It's organic to the business. And now the question is, okay, tell me the themes that we need to go root cause fix. Tell me the themes that we can go automate. And that's where we used VOC across survey data. We used VOC across intercom chat, through cancellation surveys, through interviews as well. And we started bucketing these and prioritizing by ARR. Now in this, the first 2 buckets of issues, there is a Pareto. There is 20% of the issues that cause 80% of the damage or 80% of the inbound contacts. And then there is a long tail of things that you could continuously keep trying to improve, but it's not going to actually improve metrics as much. There is opportunity cost there. You can use engineering to go build a new feature rather than solve that one issue that will automatically get sorted out in the roadmap. So we systematically did this, and then now to come for so these are all inputs, right? These are all inputs. The outcome that we have is a metric that we defined. It is called the human inquiry rate. And it's the number of WAU per 100 WU that contact a support channel. So they are hitting friction. And when we started the program, our human inquiry rate was close to 10. So 10 out of 100. So it meant that out of every 100 weekly active users, you would get some sort of support contact interaction from 10 of those WAUs. And that's not a great number to be in, at least in my point of view, for a self-service type business. And what we did was we took the 10, we divided it into these 2 first groups, the root cause fix and the automation. We systematically went after the Pareto. Every time we would look at the 20% of the themes that are causing 80% of issues and started fixing one by one. And we gave human inquiry rate goals to each product team to go hit. And over time, we were able to drive those down pretty significantly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like, just to summarize, unified all customer interaction and feedback in one system, and then mapped it to revenue impact so that we have the quantified impact as well. Broke it down, saw three broad categories. I love the definition of like organic and inorganic. That it is organic if they want to do more things with Apollo and they are happy. And I love the bar you said is like if they have a friction, that's inorganic and the responsibility lies with the product owner. That's fantastic. And within the inorganic, it's like 80%, like 40, equally split between like a usability issue or a bug versus, and 40% was automation. And then within those, like found, okay, the Pareto of like what 20% of those 80% between root cause and automation are driving the most impact, and that we should then allocate resources to that based on revenue impact, and that becomes like the an iterative loop that you execute on like every quarter and measure improvements on. And I love the metric of human interaction rate as well. It's like metric how many people are reaching and tracking that as well. Two questions that follow up from this. One, could you share examples of like some like investments you've been able to make since you've been doing this for like 6 months, this root cause elimination program, and like any impact you've seen to like maybe the human contact rate, or how are you measuring progress of this program over the last 6 months?
Yeah, so we'll start with the macro. We did all of this. The folks on the webinar are like, okay, like what is the actual outcome? So we actually reduced close to 40 to 50% of our human inquiry rate. Like remember, we were at 10. We dropped it down. At some times we had even close to 6.5, which was pretty significant. Now imagine all those reps that were fulfilling password change requests are now actually helping the customer onboard or get activated to new features. And that's a significant change. It's opportunity cost, not just reducing the cost to serve, but also turning that into something that actually helps the customer. So you're increasing lifetime value. Right. So that is pretty significant. We have made several changes on data coverage. For instance, we have a data leads database that helps you penetrate your total available market. Not all data is equal. There are customer segments, there are certain seniority of buyers and titles, and we have gotten feedback that certain geos, certain seniority of titles are more important than the others, and we were able to go and enrich and get much better data there and start improving and tackle these problems segment by segment. We had issues with coverage across certain geos that we went and fixed. We had issues with complex setup. We are a power user product. There is infinite capability within the product, but sometimes certain parts like setting up a mailbox or understanding how to set up your domain reputation so that you're sending emails through the right methods is sometimes very difficult. So we took that as a big theme that we noticed with high ARR association, and we went and did multiple things. We have a better mailbox setup process. We have much better education and guidance. We also had a go-to-market a series of webinars where we are training users on how to do this, how to do the setup properly, and how to actually reach out to the right people, the right channel at speed and scale. And they've got significant improvements. Our number of inquiries about our email campaign management product has dropped significantly. We also hit a lot of performance issues. There are performance issues that you can see in the data that are not within a certain percentile that you like, but you can actually supplement that with how many people are actually frustrated with that performance issue. Because sometimes you're looking for reducing latency by a few milliseconds here and there, but you don't really know if that matters that much to a customer, right? And so we were able to improve our pretty slow browser performance in very specific areas by looking at the data that we had from intercom chats. So a lot of very specific things that we did helped us hone in on the 20% of the issues that cost 80% of the impact. And the big win-win here is we're able to leverage the rest of the engineering resources to go ship significantly awesome and valuable features while minimizing what we call keep the lights on and bug fixes and things like that. So it's like needle in a haystack. When you have so many issues coming from all over the place, how do you like put a magnifying lens and focus on just the 20% that caused the impact? That was a big benefit from this. So over 6 months, we have almost dropped our human inquiry rate by like close to 40%.
Yeah. And you've dropped it at 40% while the denominator is also like rapidly increasing, which is like even more extraordinary.
Oh yeah, we have grown sequentially every month for the last 9 months. So we have way more users now than we used to before.
Yeah, and so like, and then on top of that, reducing the human contact rate for by 40% during this hypergrowth is even more special. I'm just like on the side note, like when you look at this program you set up philosophically, uh, I think you mentioned that you're able to like really hone in through a magnifying lens on like these are the three very specific things you need to solve, which will have the most impact on based on like revenue data on like reducing churn based on customer feedback that we're learning for. As a product leader, like what's the is the biggest thing like the benefit that you feel is just a confidence that okay the thing that we're doing is actually going to drive impact and we feel good about it even before we start executing on it? Like is that the like, how do you think about this from your perspective?
Both inputs as well as output. So the question you want to answer is you want to reduce friction in product use because you know that's connected to gross dollar retention, that's connected to net
Mm,
dollar retention. But how do you get down to the most like the inputs that help you hone in on the three or four hypotheses for what is causing friction and go
right.
and then the second thing is how do you tie that to revenue data so that you're focusing on things that actually make an impact. And then the last part is you can do all of this, but you don't know if you're actually making an impact because you can't. How do you
Yes.
measure? How do you measure this? So you need something that is actually measurable right now, which is
Mm,
for these themes and these teams or products, has the inquiry rate on these specific topics gone down? That is
mm,
critical because that is directly measurable. Because a lot of people go and measure, hey, we fixed a bunch of stuff and our retention has gone back up. Those are not directly connected. It's as
mm.
disconnected as it can be. It's very difficult to actually draw a direct correlation between usability fixes and education and direct retention. What
Mm.
is more measurable is are people still contacting you for those reasons? And because
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have the human
exactly.
inquiry rate and we had a very tangible measurable what we call a smart outcome for human inquiry rate. It was more easy for the teams to say and understand that we are actually making progress.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. And it is something that you've like rolled it out. I mean, you have a pretty big org now. Like Apollo has like multiple products underneath it. Like, it's something that you rolled it out to your entire product org, like to for their particular domain. Like, find the top three issues and roll it out.
Yeah, good. Really good question. I wish in hindsight we had rolled it out to the entire org from day one. I think it would have been great. But what we did was initially we piloted with a couple of teams that had the
Mm.
highest amount of HIR rates, and
Uh,
then what we did was we saw a significant improvement to self-serviceability, and we said, okay, for the next quarter we are going to have all teams on a pretty aggressive reduction in human inquiry rate by like close to 25% within a single quarter, and every team had and you think this is aggressive, but each team had not more than three or four issues that they actually wanted to
yep.
go fix. And so it's finding those three or four issues. And if we have every single team go and dig into survey data, every single team go and talk to the contact center, it is a lot of cross coordination and time wasted. But instead, we had this
Right.
like one central VOC or RCE program that already had the tools set up and the insights
Yes.
flowing in. The teams had access to the four issues. What are the four issues I must concentrate on so that
Right.
I can drop my HIR? Boom, boom, boom. And we got every
That's
team signed up for between 3 to 4 issues.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. By the way, folks, you can drop in your questions in the Q&A box of the panel, and we'll get those as well. And then moving on, like first of all, I want to just call it. I think it is really special that you treat friction so seriously within the product, and the respect you give to like friction that it needs to be addressed. I think I've heard like I was talking to a lot of product leaders and a lot of them think about like churn impact like and uh, just like or like as like the big but driver, but but friction is like a leading indicator of churn as well. So that to me is like so compelling that even the bar is so high that even friction is not acceptable. um, how do you uh, how do you think about the evolution of this program? And you mentioned I know we're spreading this out for different use cases for root cause elimination. Like, could you talk about the evolution of this root cause elimination program to follow as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We started with friction because it is users that have already signed up for the product, they're paying money. They just want the best
Right.
value out of the product, and we just want to get them to the destination. So we said we'll focus on
Right.
friction. Again, back to the philosophy, nobody should be contacting a human at the company to use the product. And if they do that, then it's a bug. If they are doing it to add more licenses or activate a new feature, that's great. That's organic. But
Mm.
no user should contact the business for an inorganic issue. So that was phase one. So go systematically go fix anywhere a user has friction. Now again, this is core to our business, product-led growth. We want users to get everything that they want out of the product without having to talk to a human, because that's the way that the world is going to evolve into, and that's why we had that
Mm.
as phase one. Phase one has been super successful so far. Now phase two is, let's go up the funnel. Why did the user get to that friction? Were they not activated correctly on the product? Did they not set up the product in a way that was easy for them to use? And this applies to all types of customers, so small and medium business all the way to enterprise customers. You'd be very surprised that enterprise customers have the worst activation rates, because they rely
Mm.
on somebody else to do it, and they don't
Right.
know the landscape, they don't know what they're trying to achieve, they don't know their business goals. So we want to tackle all of that. And activation is our next phase. Understand what are the 20% of the reasons that cause 80% of the failed activation rates, and then go and
Mm.
root cause eliminate that. And once we
Mm.
have that done, and we know that we have activated customers really well, then prevent churn. Same thing. If somebody is churning after a year, what are the reasons? And you can read Tombstone reports. You can go through hundreds and hundreds of Tombstone reports, and you can get lost. Multiple teams will be attributable to
Mm.
multiple things. Now,
Yep.
how do you then find the needle in the haystack? What are the 20% of the reasons that cause 80% of the churn? And then assign it to teams so that they can go and tackle that. And then having a central place where you know what the root cause issues are, so they can go and eliminate this. So we're rolling this out in phases. So friction, all
Mm.
current users, make sure they get the best value out of the product. Then all future new users, make sure that they're activated on the product so they get the right value. And then in the future, make sure that the people that are getting value and are getting sustained value over a period of time, and root cause eliminate anybody that is not getting sustained value. So those are the three main phases that we have rolling. So we are in phase one right now. We got data for phase two and phase three as well. Those are coming in, but we want to take like a very specific action. Almost think of the
Right.
goal of root cause elimination going into like three chunks.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And it's almost like, like when you go into activation and you're able to improve activation rate, you also have this assuredness that because they will encounter significantly lesser friction because you've already taken care of that. And then, obviously, if they're activated successfully and they're not having friction during once they become like post-activated users, then obviously you're more confident that churn also should hopefully not be that of big of concern, but you can but still tackle the Pareto there as well. That's fantastic. On a broader level, Sheikh, how do you we we live in a special time. Like you have a lot of experience. You previously at Qualtrics, in a very senior position where customer interactions is multi-channel, multimodal, high volume. As you mentioned, product-led growth is the future. Product is a revenue center, and we live in a special age moment in AI also where it is actually possible to leverage AI to deeply understand customer interactions and quantify them and find trends. How do you view on a just outside of Apollo at a macro level, given this intersection of multimodal, multi-channel feedback, product continuing to become digital products continue to become more and more of a revenue center for all organizations, and AI evolving into a place where it's actually technically feasible to solve this problem. What does the world look like 2 years down the road?
Yeah, I I have a personal preference to product-led growth, because I feel that we have come to a place where we have enough tools to build really good experiences where everything a customer needs is there in the product. Activation, for instance, like CRM setup used to take months and months. You have to design the
Yeah.
system and do
Yeah.
so much stuff.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it happens in hours. I literally saw a demo where you could read the schematic of a CRM and infer the fields and infer the data and the semantics behind the fields and automatically do a setup. I wouldn't have imagined this 10 years ago. So the
Mm.
biggest friction that we have is, how do you ensure that the product is set up in a way that it helps answer the questions that the user is trying to do? And
Mm.
that is starting to go away. We're starting to automate a lot of the setup, and out of the box, more out of the box configurations of very complex SaaS software is happening, which is only possible because of the tech that we have right now. So that's going to go away, and setup is going to start getting much easier. The second thing is insights and recommendations are going to be more push than pull. But like analytics and insights are more push to you as you're going through things. Like for us in our product, for instance, if you're not generating enough pipeline for your sales team, very often it's code red. People don't really know what it is. Is it because you're targeting the wrong buyers, or is it because you're not making enough calls per day, or is it because your email campaigns are not getting the right response rates? Why do you have to go and dig through all of that? We know all of that for you. So we'll look at what your goals are. You want to have 2.5x coverage on your sales. By looking at the rate at which your SDRs are generating pipeline, we can tell you exactly what is going on. Maybe the third play that you have for expansion of existing customers is not hitting the right response rates because something in the value prop is not resonating to you. So we'll serve that up to you so that you can go act on that insight rather than having to go and find this insight in a haystack. So with these two things, if setup is super simple and if the insights and actions are directly served up to you, you don't need a lot of the paraphernalia. You can spend less time in support, you can spend less time in customer success. All of that can be done through the product itself so that those folks can make sure that the customers are more successful. They can focus on their unique business problems. They can be more of the strategic advisors, telling them how to design a program or how to get to a certain business outcome rather than how to use the product. A lot of the technical account managers and CS reps that I know today are way too tactical. They're trying to tell the customer how to use the product. Now, with these things coming in and you have better data on what is causing friction during activation, what is causing friction in usage, you can eliminate all of that and get more of these go-to-market functions be strategic advices to the customer rather than helping the customer use the product. So that's what I think the trend is going to be going forward.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think to sum it up, it's like product setups are going to be more simple over time. Insights will be more push driven versus pulling out by a different function like data analyst. And then the feedback loops basically to the product org on where things are working, not working, will also be like more seamless. And this all works in conjunction that like how to use a product or will be more product driven versus human driven from customer support. Yeah, that's fantastic. Great. I don't know, somehow we're 35 minutes in already. Time flew by. I want to make sure we have time for questions from the audience. So I will stop sharing my screen so that we can take a few questions from the folks. Okay, so the first question from the audience is, what advice do you have for product leaders trying to get started with voice of customer program?
I think you need to have a core problem that you're trying to solve. I don't think you should set up a VOC program just for the sake of a VOC program. We wanted to focus on retention, and one of the input metrics for retention is self-servability or reduction in friction. And we wanted to debunk the input metric into multiple themes, like what is the reason why there is friction in adoption. If you have a business outcome that is tied to a set of input metrics that can be supported by a VOC program, then you should design the VOC program around it. If you have a generic VOC program that is just going and getting customer insights that's not tied to a particular business outcome, those are less likely to succeed. So that's probably how I would approach the VOC process.
Yeah, awesome. And there's a similar question on this, like how do you get buy-in for this program? Like if or like if, let's say if you have to if someone had to convince you, we already believe in that, but like if someone is like trying to convince a C-level executive that we should invest in this and we should have this, like what's the best way to phrase that internally?
Yeah, I'm a math person. So I would say like if you can use like set up a funnel for that, right? Like if your human inquiry rate is really high, you can look at the cost of service, and you can also attribute that every time there is an interaction that a customer has with a support channel, it reduces their gross dollar retention. So if you take the combination of both of those, and if you can estimate the impact of, if you reduce the inputs to friction through a VOC program, you understand what the inputs to friction is. here is how you can impact overall retention, overall gross dollar retention. At a minimum, you can even say it reduces cost and it reduces opportunity cost that you have in the contact center, which you can then use for things that are much better for expanding the business, for instance. The best way is to convince yourself that it's worth it by estimating what the impact is. And then once you do that, then you actually design the program for that, the very specific outcome, right? Like for us, we knew human inquiry rate is correlated to retention. And so we said, if we reduce that by 40%, this will impact retention long term. And so like we were ourselves convinced that that's the approach to do.
Yes.
Setting up the VOC program after that and getting buy-in was more of a tactic after that.
Yeah, great, fantastic. On a related note, we have another question from the audience, which is like, which team set up the central place where all this data lives? Any tactical suggestions for how to set something like this into motion?
Yeah, consider this like a program. The setup of the data is actually just one part, but if you so we set up a centralized program so that we have all of the data and the reporting in one single place, so every product team could just access that, and then we also had governance around it. Every team had signed up for a goal, and so we would meet monthly to understand what is it that we're seeing in the data, what are the top themes, what is it that we have fixed in the last 1 month, how have our trends for human inquiry rate gone in the last 1 month, and we are driving accountability through that single forum where we have all the PMs, and this whole program is actually run by our very talented BizOps team that actually does all the cross coordination. The reason why we have BizOps team involved is not a lot of the fixes are actually only product. There is a lot of fixes on messaging, marketing, website, knowledge base articles, how support interactions are being handled. The actions are across the whole org. And so having BizOps support that centrally was phenomenally impactful for us.
Yep. I can vouch for their talent and awesome there. Shout out to Lindley and Nathan. We have, I can combine a couple of questions for the next one. Truly love the product. What was the most challenging part of evolving your VOC process? And then second part was, what was the most surprising source of friction you discovered while doing this?
Yeah, most challenging part probably is the program setup and governance. I would say I wish somebody had told me here is your input metric and here's the outcome metric. So we actually had to sit down and brainstorm, and Nathan and Lindy were extremely helpful here. What would the right outcome metric be, and defining what human inquiry rate means. And for everybody, I think there will be a different outcome metric that you might have to go and create. That was the most challenging part. The most surprising thing, I think the most surprising thing was actually not very surprising. Every team had exactly 3 or 4 issues that they had to go fix that significantly dropped the human inquiry rate. It was maniacally similar to 3 issues or 4 issues. It wasn't a long list. So before we had this long list of everything that customers are complaining about, and it was so overwhelmingly long that teams were almost scared of touching that list. And when we did the Pareto and when we figured out what the human inquiry rate impact was going to be, and we saw the themes from Enterpret, every team had exactly 3 to 4 issues. So the number of issues is actually low. Like you can actually go and focus on fewer issues and get a ton of impact if you connect revenue data with themes across multiple channels and tie it to a certain outcome like human inquiry rate.
Yeah. Well said. I think the one thing I've noticed is like for a lot of smart teams, like no one insight is like surprising or aha moment, or like oh, I didn't know this was even happening. Like people are generally aware of for that product, like what the broad issues are. It's like the quantification of like the like stack ranking. Hey, number 1 is actually 3x number 2, and number 2 is actually 4x number 3. And then the collective revenue impact of this is that. It's like that validation gives you the confidence that, hey, oh, I was aware of this. Now I know I really need to fix this, because I think that's what I've discovered as well. Another question, Sheikh, from the audience is, are all inorganic support interactions undesirable? How do you see AI impacting such interactions?
Well, I think any inorganic support interaction is a bug. Like nobody should contact you for like, how do I use the product? And that's a failure of the product, right? I think a lot of them can be like, this is why I hesitate from auto answering in intercom. how do I use X? And it's auto answered, and the customer then has to still struggle and go and find out. I think out of 10 customers, maybe 3 customers will actually want to contact support and get something done. 7 of them will leave. So why do you want to let those customers leave? So you might, I forbid teams from over solving for the intercom scenario with like crazy AI that goes and looks at the knowledge database and like crafts like the perfect answer and then queries back and forth until their problem is solved. I mean, that's great, but that's only for the 3 customers that actually said, okay, I'm frustrated enough, let me contact support. 7 of them have already left. They've gone to a competitor, they've gone to another solution. You've lost the signal on that. So I would say like root cause elimination, 5 whys. Why did the customer contact support? Why did that thing that not work? Why was the education not enough for the customer to be able to do this on their own? So go and fix the root cause elimination. So you save not just the 3 customers, but also the 7 customers that are not going to contact you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Right, we can take a couple more questions as they keep coming in. How do you weigh qualitative data coming in from Intercom plus all of the sources you mentioned versus user interviews? Like, do you assign, like, how do you prioritize different channels? Are you agnostic to them, or you just want to look at revenue impact? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they're luckily they're all quantified with the same data, which is what's the total license value with an account.
Right.
We do actually still go and look at it a little bit more in depth with, is this the right customer profile that we should even be serving? Because our product is such that we have certain profiles of customers who might pay a lot of money, but they're actually not using the product for the core jobs to be done that we are helping customers go after. So we do use ARR quite a bit to look at prioritizing, but we also look at the customer profile to see, is this the tier of customers that we actually want to serve? Because you may be able to go and fix the root cause, but the underlying problem might be much larger. The product is not suited for that customer profile that is saying that this doesn't work for them. So it's a combination of those 2.
Yeah, that's well said. All right, final question. We'll take this, which is, how does Apollo think about closing the loop with a customer after acting on the feedback? Or is this something that's like top of mind?
Good one. This is top of mind for me. I don't think we do this well today. I wish there was like a magic wand where if a customer is contacted through support and we have the theme and we have tagged the customer and we go fix that issue, there's like an automatic message that goes out to the customer. I wish we were able to do that in a more systematic way, but we don't. For some of our top ARR customers, some of these issues show up in logs, customer success logs. So we have the CS rep go back and communicate with them what we're doing to fix. But it's a good thing. I think we need to actively fix. If you all have any good examples of tools that help us do that, I would be more than happy to use.
Yeah, great. Happy to share some recommendations offline. Check on that. Great. Well, we're at time. Sheikh, I cannot thank you enough for this extremely insightful and very pragmatic discussion on leveraging customer feedback, quantifying it scientifically to revenue impact, and using it to drive product investments. I think this is the future. I think where you're doing will, years down the line will be an industry standard practice. So thank you for leading the charge on this. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your time. Extremely busy person, and you taking your time to share your knowledge and wisdom so transparently with the audience. I'm very grateful. Thank you, folks, who joined us on this discussion. And we're recording this, so we'll send the recording out to the folks as well. And yeah, wish you all a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for asking really awesome questions. Looking forward to having more of such conversations.
Great. Thank you, Sheikh. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Bye, everyone.